How can I tell people about having D.I.D? Let's find out. One of the most difficult things about having D.I.D is being able to be open enough to tell people. We've gotten a whole ton of questions about how to do it, like good ways, and a variety of people on who to tell. So we've written down some methods that we've used in the past with varying types of people, and hopefully they'll be able to help some people out there. So first off, I'm going to start with family and friends, then move on to a couple of different other people that you could talk to about this. So for one of the most easy ways to kind of test the water and see where people's opinions lie on D.I.D is to casually bring it up in conversation, kind of in a way to test the waters. You could talk about media and representation, like, hey, have you seen this movie? There was a character with D.I.D in it, and what do you think about that? Or I recently read a book about this person who has this disorder. How about that? Or just like, boy. Or you could even pretend to do that asking for a friend thing, like my friend has this, and it's been a pretty cool time to have a friend who has D.I.D and being able to experience these kind of things. And if you've already been to therapy and been diagnosed with it, you could simply bring that up in conversation, like, I was diagnosed with D.I.D and this is how it affects me, and then kind of just go into describing some details about what your experiences are like. And if you haven't quite yet gotten to the point of going to therapy, you could kind of blindly talk about your symptoms if it's with your parents, like, I've been experiencing some disconnection with my body, and like hearing some, you could just call them like audio hallucinations, and be kind of vague about it, so they're like, okay, you probably need therapy, so you should probably go do that, and they might even help you find a therapist. And a good way for some friends is to let one of your alters actually like introduce themselves. Like, this is another method you could use for like a variety of people: therapists, your significant other, friends, maybe family. I'm not certain about family. That might not exactly pan out how you'd hope for it to, but it's worth a shot if you really know your family members. Or you could do kind of a last resort thing. This is a method I wouldn't highly recommend, but it may work in some circumstances. You could drop it on them like a bomb. You could be like, yo, I have this disorder. In your face, kind of a thing. We haven't really used that before, and it may not turn out well. That is one of the more kind of violent ways to kind of come out with it, so be careful with that one. Be very careful with dropping it on them like a bomb. Now moving on to like your spouse, crush, or significant other. So in my case personally, I always like to tell them before we start dating, like, just letting them know what they're kind of in for, because we kind of like to be recognized as, a collective of separate people instead of just like one person in one relationship, because that'd be weird to think about ourselves that way. And if you haven't told them yet, don't worry, all is not lost. There are plenty of ways you could let your spouse or significant other know what's going on with you. You could do that previously mentioned way of letting an alter introduce themselves, probably like an ANP, like an apparently normal part, because they're the most easy to kind of, I guess, digest for singlets, They're kind of like the safest alters to release into a social setting in some cases. Or if not, just one of the alters you trust the most could introduce themselves and kind of be like, hey, the host is not here right now, but I am. This is who I am. This is what's going on, and that could turn out pretty well. You could hope. And you could also do something like, have you noticed when I then insert a thing like space out, lose memory, act differently, act like a different person? Then you could follow it up with, that's because I have D.I.D, and this is how it impacts me, and it won't necessarily impact you, but if we're dating, we should probably be open about all these things, and then try to spark a conversation about it, and like see where it goes from there. And now for therapists. I have to say, one of our only regrets is not being more open about what we were experiencing when we were going into therapy. because we, for the most part, did our first method here, which is to play dumb. You can talk about your symptoms as if you don't know they're connected to D.I.D, even though they obviously are. Sometimes a therapist doesn't connect the dots that you're so blatantly leaving for them, and they're just like, oh, it's just something else, whatever, it's no big deal, you're just experiencing anxiety. While on the inside you're like, no, it's a lot more than that, please, therapist. So I'd say our second method is better, kind of an informed conversation thing. You could share your suspicions about D.I.D with them and be like, hey, I've been reading up on this disorder here, and I really connect with this. A lot of the symptoms are exactly what I've been experiencing, and I feel like we should delve deeper into that and start that conversation there. Like, therapists are there to listen to you and try to help you out, and if they don't, and if they kind of shut you down or don't believe in D.I.D, you can always get a new therapist. Like, that's something that a lot of people don't consider, is kind of just dropping it and moving on to someone better, because there is a better therapist out there for you, and if your current one doesn't understand you and isn't willing to listen, you should take your business elsewhere. It'll be just for the better, for your own health and everything. So, in conclusion, make sure to read the situation and just use whichever method seems best for the given situation. You don't have to come out about D.I.D if you don't feel safe about it, and that's a big thing in society, is people who would be aggressive towards you or like discriminatory against you if you were open about that. So just be careful with who you come out to, because like we want you all to be safe out there and not have to like deal with a bunch of aggressive, terrible people. And disclaimer here, these are just methods we've used in the past, and some of them are more successful than others, like the informed conversation with therapists versus playing dumb. So just use whichever ones you think would work best for your situation, and that's all I could think of off the top of my head for ways to come out to your therapist about this. Now, this wouldn't be a proper YouTube video if I didn't do some advertising at the end here. I'm just gonna reach over unprofessionally and grab something. We recently rediscovered this baby. This is a gigantic loom. It's like 1.5 feet long, and we can make extra wide scarves on this. So if you are interested, and if you'd like to commission us or like purchase something that's like a gigantic scarf, please check out our Etsy, send us a message on there, and we can create things exactly to your specifications. The link to that will be down in the description below, so please feel free to check that out. Anyway, thank you guys for watching, and stay safe out there, and we will see you all in the next video. Okay, after filming, I realized something that I should probably give you guys a heads up about. When you come out about having D.I.D, some people may just suddenly also have it as well a couple of days later. And then you're like, this came out of nowhere, and you exhibited none of the symptoms that I did, so what's up with that? Be careful about that. Approach that situation with a lot of caution, because we had an ex who did that, and he messed us up worse than Stacy did, and I don't want anybody to have to go through that either. So if you come out as having D.I.D and your friend does as well, keep an eye on them. Don't reveal like a whole ton of like vulnerable subject to them until you're absolutely certain that they do as well. And yeah, be careful out there, guys. There's a lot of risks when you come out as having D.I.D, and I don't want you guys to go through the same things that we did. Be safe. It took him a minute to calm down, but Thick Boy is being very good. Look at that loaf. He's just politely hanging out and waiting for me to finish filming. What an absolute angel.